Is Chuck Rock 2 Son of Chuck still good? Chuck Rock 2 Son of Chuck is a platformer released for the Sega Genesis, Sega CD, Amiga, and CD32. An 8-bit port was also released on the Game Gear and Master System. For today's video though, we'll be looking at the Genesis version, released in 1993 and developed by Core Design. Like the first game, Chuck Rock 2 was met with positive review scores. Mean Machines magazine scored the game an 8.2 out of 10, noting a highly polished platformer with all of the extras you're likely to find these days. But that said, it's been seen before many a time. Mega Fun magazine gave the game an 8.6 out of 10, stating, "For jump and run fans, this game is an absolute must." Finally, Sega Force magazine scored the game an 8 out of 10, proclaiming, "To summarize, this is a game for people who never tire of platforming." So, is Chuck Rock 2 Son of Chuck still worthy of the review scores? Let's dive in. Chuck Rock 2 contains no attract screen or opening dialogue explaining the plot of the game. In the Genesis version anyway, you are simply dumped into a prehistoric world with a baby wielding an oversized club. As this is a platformer from the 90s, we can assume the baby is our hero, the son of Chuck, and he is on some quest to defeat a bad guy, and maybe rescue someone. In any case, it doesn't matter. The first 3 levels are in the Stone Age suburbs, where the player comes to grips with the controls. Chuck Jr.'s movement is fairly tight and responsive, and he is quick to reach his modest top speed. He can also jump, though the height of the jump is fixed, regardless if you quickly tap the jump or hold the button. Mid-air maneuverability is high, thankfully, and landing on platforms is a painless process. What you can't land on is enemies. Chuck Rock 2 is one of those anti-Mario games, where the player must utilize an attack to take out foes. However, the oversized club is a versatile weapon. Rather than simply jabbing or slashing, Chuck Jr. does a full swing, and damage can be done forwards, upwards, and behind with a single attack. No aiming is required either. Simply press the attack button and a full swing occurs. Chuck can also attack while in the air, striking foes above or below on the downward trajectory. Like I said, it's flexible and, more importantly, simple. The combination of a great weapon arc and tight controls make Chuck Jr. feel exceptionally agile. Moving on, there are some items the player can interact with in the environments. First are little blocks, which can be used as platforms or destroyed to clear a path. Second are boulders, which can be clubbed to move them into more favorable positions. This allows Chuck Jr. to reach new areas and tackle obstacles in alternate ways. Finally, the ability to ride different animals is also introduced. First is a baby dinosaur with increased speed and a height advantage. It doesn't do much to change the gameplay in any drastic way, but the different physics do vary up the gameplay. After clearing the Stone Age suburb levels, a boss arrives. There isn't much to this fight, as the boss telegraphs his attacks before striking. Simply move out of the way before his attack and then do damage with your backswing. From here, a bonus level is presented. Bonus levels are important. By default, Chuck Rock 2 Son of Chuck offers 3 lives and a single continue. Beating these time bonus levels awards an additional continue, which will be crucial for those who are new to the game. Next up is a one-off level, Dippy the Dinosaur. Chuck Jr. begins the level at the tail and then works his way towards the head. Along the way, you'll smash flying fish and other watery enemies, and even take refuge on a bird while Dippy the Dinosaur dips. The end of this level is a mini-boss against the dinosaur Chuck Jr. has traveled across. This works just like the first boss, with telegraph strikes at the player. With Dippy dispatched, Chuck Jr. makes his way to the Butterfly Grove. Concepts taught on earlier levels are reinforced here. The player is required to do a bit of planning before breaking blocks, making sure the blocks can't be used for a strategic purpose later on. Another element is also introduced: invisible platforms. There are a few clues to their existence, like this impossible to reach stash of bonus points, and some blocks one might feel inclined to smash. But by jumping on the blocks, you'll discover an invisible platform to the bonus points. Another gimmick is using bananas to lure monkeys. Here, a monkey with a rope swing is normally out of reach. Dropping this banana will oblige him to move, allowing the player to swing across a bed of spikes. While obvious when first presented, in the second instance it is less so. By whacking this banana over to the left, a monkey can be lured back right and used as a platform to reach a bird stuck in toilet paper or something. Free him from the trap and the bird can be used to clear the massive jumps found in the rest of the level. After the 2 Butterfly Grove levels, Chuck makes his way to the waterfalls. The new obstacles are one-way slides, preventing backtracking and moving wave platforms. There are also plenty of bonus points littered on impossible-to-reach platforms, suggesting there are probably invisible platforms hiding somewhere. Then there is a boss fight. In my opinion, this is the weakest boss in the game. The patterns are easy enough to discern with the projectile attack before the octopus emerges, a series of projectile attacks once underwater, and a final projectile once resurfaced. The goal is to swing at this final attack, using the enemy's own projectile against him. Unfortunately, the timing of nearly everything feels slightly off. Even doing essentially the same movements, I found myself sometimes taking a bunch of damage during the underwater attack phase. Anything less than perfect timing will cause awkward collisions with incoming attacks. The final projectile also requires perfect timing. Swing too soon or too late and Chuck Jr. takes damage. It's a little clumsy if I'm honest, and perhaps the low point in the adventure. But things return to normal in Lively Lava. The difficulty starts to creep up at this point. First, missing a jump lands Chuck Jr. in lava, which does damage. Next, this enemy with a flamethrower can surprise an unsuspecting player. They are never placed in an unfair spot, but their existence does force some caution as you race forward. But not too slow, as there are collapsing platforms. There's also a boulder the player can use to navigate. The controls are reversed, of course. Running to the left makes the boulder move right, which makes sense. The player is eased into it, thankfully, as the mechanic is required in the next level, the Spooky Cave. Here, there is limited visibility, but the eyes of every enemy are visible. A bit of trial and error is required here as the player learns the patterns of what each eye is. These large eyes are harmless, for example, and the player can simply walk underneath them without any fuss. Other eyes represent leaping enemies, which will jump straight into Chuck Jr. As visibility is limited, it's not always clear whether these guys are a threat or will be blocked by some unseen wall. I should also mention the climbing action. Chuck Jr. can climb onto his club, allowing small enemies to continue underneath. These spiked creatures are immune to attacks, so this technique is occasionally required. And of course, there are plenty of areas where Chuck Jr. needs to roll around on a boulder, avoiding enemies and safely traveling over beds of spikes. I can't say this level style is my favorite, but nothing here is overly offensive, and at least it's not a water level. Next up are a pair of tree levels, appropriately named Going Up the Tree and Going Down the Tree. While the fundamental platforming and attacks aren't drastically altered here, the focus of traveling vertically does provide a nice change of pace to the mostly horizontal level structure presented thus far. The player just needs to plan their jumps, watch out for acorns, swing on vines, and avoid spikes to clear these 2 levels. Once complete, Chuck Jr. makes it to another one-off level, the Lava Tree. This feels like an obstacle course. The tree is slowly sinking into the lava pit, and the player must navigate upwards to avoid taking damage. You can't race up too quickly either, as there are plenty of enemies and obstacles causing harm. Instead, caution and persistence are needed to clear the various challenges. Once at the top, another boss fight ensues. This bird battle is divided into 3 sections. First, the egg must be broken. Once broken, the newly hatched chick will begin dropping rocks. This is even tougher, as Chuck Jr. needs to jump over the rock but not jump into the chick. Finally, the boss will charge straight at Chuck Jr., and landing hits while avoiding a collision requires quick thinking and good reflexes. With this lava bird defeated, it is time for Fruit Mountain. If there's one thing to say about this level, there is a lot of stuff to do. For one, you get to use a tiger as a way to jump over large gaps. Next, you can hitch a ride on a balloon to progress vertically through the level. Finally, you get to ride on a goat, which moves quickly, jumps high, and has some skittish handling. While I'm not sure how candy and mountains go together, this seems to be a thing with Amiga platformers. As Chuck Jr. reaches the summit, it's time for Snow Problem. As has been the case thus far, this level continues to build upon the concepts previously introduced. The player must hide underneath platforms to avoid taking damage from avalanches, use the tiger to reach across large platforms, and continue to learn the various patterns of enemies. There is also an obligatory avalanche chase. Next is Meet Moose Morgan. This is the only auto-scrolling level in Chuck Rock 2, and the player must quickly react to incoming danger by jumping. Missing a jump results in instant death, which is a mechanic only used on this level. While there is a little trial and error, and a new player probably won't get this 100% perfect on their first try, Snow Problem is extremely short, limiting the frustration. Next is a boss fight, and another weak one in my opinion. Chuck Jr. must jump from platform to platform while hitting the boss. Unfortunately, his large arms will come and smash away the platforms. Much like the octopus boss, I couldn't get into a good groove on this one, nor determine an appropriate strategy or discernible pattern. Maybe I'm just terrible at the game, or maybe the entire encounter is a bit sloppy. In any case, with the Sea Slug dispatched, Chuck Jr. has just a few levels to go before the final fight. First up is an industrial level in the smelly sewers. Up till now, Chuck Rock 2 has kept a mostly prehistoric theme, but like many platformers of the day, the final few levels are mechanical. The player must dodge dripping chemicals, club various knobs to turn off steam valves, and continuously jump on platforms to prevent them from sinking. Thankfully, the controls are more than up to the task of the demanding platforming. After this is the Car Factory, which is just like the smelly sewers, except there are cars in the background. To be fair, conveyor belts are added to the mix, but the same blend of tough enemy patterns and challenging hazards remains. Following a second Car Factory level, Chuck Jr. arrives at the final boss, Brick Jagger and his robot. In a way, this final showdown functions similar to the bird boss seen earlier, as it's broken into 3 specific segments. First, the robot will try and grab Chuck Jr. with his arms. This leaves an opening to get in some headshots. After the head is gone, the robot will roam back and forth, requiring Chuck Jr. to get in body shots while avoiding the fast movements. Lastly, Brick Jagger is exposed and vulnerable, allowing the player to get in a few easy hits and finally beat the game. From here, Junior saves his father Chuck, and a conclusion is offered for a story which was never told. Chuck Jr. saves his father, and Brick Jagger lands himself in jail. Then, of course, the credits roll. Graphically, Chuck Rock 2 Son of Chuck is impressive. From a technical standpoint, there is little to fault. There is plenty of parallax scrolling, including vertical. Sprites are large and detailed, and the artists seem to throw a ton of color on the screen. Even better are the weather effects. The raindrops and snowflakes are large, and the lightning turns the screen black and white. And of course, the Code Ninjas at Core Design did an awesome job pushing the Genesis with some amazing rotation effects. Granted, this isn't hardware rotation, but rather optical trickery. It's impressive nonetheless. The large dinosaur looks excellent as it leans forwards and backwards in the water, and the lava tree is a sight to behold, swaying back and forth as it's gobbled up by the lava. It seriously rivals some of the best Genesis rotation effects put up by Konami and Treasure. While a technical marvel for sure, I must also say the game is artistically pleasing. The color palettes chosen look terrific, with bold primary colors, and each and every sprite is detailed, offering both a sense of depth, but also having enough restraint to keep the game looking cartoonish, avoiding that pre-rendered look that was about to take over. Backgrounds always look distinct from the foreground, with smaller features and parallax scrolling. Most impressive is how the whole world feels alive, be it the heat waves in the lava areas, the wispy clouds in the mountains, or the plethora of butterflies in the grove. Chuck Rock 2 feels organic and inhabited. Speaking of inhabited, I should talk about the inhabitants. Be it enemies, helpers, or window dressing, all of the characters in Chuck Rock 2 Son of Chuck feature the same level of polish. with detailed extremities, smooth walking animations, and even facial expressions. Just look at the turtle's eyes as he scuttles over the burning lava. Chuck Rock 2 is a gorgeous game from top to bottom, technically and artistically. The audio is solid as well, though I'm not sure how to best describe the music. It's a mix of 90s dance music, funk, and reggae, all fused together. While one might expect a game set in prehistoric times to sound more primitive, the designers decided to go with something more upbeat. The result is terrific, with great synthesized instruments sounding crisp and clear, along with some melodic compositions matching the richness of the graphics. Sound effects are great as well, with babies crying, turtles walking over fire, and even Chuck Jr. having a prominent, but not overpowering, jumping sound. Generally speaking, Chuck Rock 2: Son of Chuck can definitely stand toe-to-toe with other late Genesis games. So, with all of that out of the way, we arrive back to the question asked at the beginning of the video. Is Chuck Rock 2: The Son of Chuck still good? First, let's take a look at where the game fumbles a bit. On occasion, there are some surprise moments. It appears clubbing this guy should quickly dispatch him, as this is what happens to other caveman enemies. Instead, his hair turns out to be a creature which charges Chuck Jr., causing damage. As best as I can tell, there is no way for the player to know this is going to happen, and it serves no other purpose than tricking the player. Same goes for the flying squirrels in the big tree. They fly straight at the player from the top or bottom of the screen, leaving the player no time to react. Memorization of their locations is required for avoidance, rather than skill. This works in the opposite way as well. Some monkeys help Chuck Jr., but they look the same as enemy monkeys. It isn't immediately obvious to lure this monkey using a banana, as the game taught the player monkeys are bad. Again, it feels like the developers were trying to trick the player. The carnivorous plant too is suspect and actually launches Chuck Jr. into the air, even though it appears dangerous. A trampoline was presented earlier, which seems like a far more logical choice for a vertical boost. There are also obstacles I never figured out how to avoid, like the boulders and lively lava. They arrive quickly and then shoot out flames. If the player doesn't jump, they take damage, but timing the jump wrong means you'll probably hit the boulder, again taking damage. These instances will either drive you mad or just be a minor annoyance, depending on the difficulty chosen. On easy mode, the health power-ups will refill the health bar completely. On normal mode, they only refill a single hit point. There may be some other differences in the difficulty, like damage received from certain hazards, but the effect of health pickups is the most obvious. On easy mode, the occasional trial and error and sometimes suspect hazards aren't a problem, and the health power-ups mitigate their cheapness. On normal mode, not so much. Finally, not all bosses are created equal. Some are a real treat with fun patterns and multiple attacks. Others are a breeze, and others feel a bit clumsy. On the flip side, Chuck Rock 2: Son of Chuck does a lot of things well. First, the attention to detail is just outstanding. I love how the birds receive a jolt of electricity on the power lines, how babies cry when they fall over, and how the score moves from the bottom of the screen to the top of the screen, depending on the level. Even Chuck Jr.'s bat drags on the ground at different angles, depending on the incline. It's clear the designers put a lot of thought into each and every item in the game, and I appreciate their attention to detail. More impressive are the little gameplay touches. Enemies don't have an invisibility period, for example, meaning you can continually hit them when you get the timing right. I also love how you can walk behind spikes, a feature I've never thought of before, but will also miss on every platformer I play moving forward. Chuck Rock 2: Son of Chuck is also free from any glitches or collision issues. I never fell through a platform, and I never missed an attack on an enemy. Both are programmed perfectly, and this means every time I took damage or lost a life, it felt like it was my fault, rather than the game's. However, the best element of Chuck Rock 2 Son of Chuck is the variety. I don't just mean the graphics either, though the worlds are varied and include all of the platforming staples you could want, like jungles, lava, and snow. I mean the gameplay variety. The controls are simple, just jump, climb, and attack. But Core Design was able to take these simple mechanics and create a lot of different things to do and challenges to overcome. Be it basic tasks like breaking blocks to move forward, moving blocks to create makeshift platforms, whacking birds to extend their necks, to more complex actions like moving secret bananas. The core gameplay mechanics never change, which keeps the controls simple and intuitive. Instead, the challenges change, keeping player engagement high. Another thing done to keep the engagement high is offering a ton of different animals to interact with. Sometimes you just ride on these, like an ant or the turtle. Other times you are in full control with different momentum and jumping characteristics. And sometimes you control the jumping but not the moving. It's just enough to prevent the adventure from ever feeling stale or repetitive. There are also a decent amount of secrets to uncover, like hidden platforms leading to a stash of bonus points and extra lives. The bonus levels also offer an additional challenge as they are timed and only presented once through a playthrough, making them tougher to master, encouraging repeat playthroughs. So yeah, Chuck Rock 2 Son of Chuck is still good. It gets all of the platforming basics right, with simple mechanics, responsive controls, and a progressive difficulty curve. The cosmetic stuff is also great, with a pleasant soundtrack, detailed graphics, large enemies, excellent animations, and some absolutely massive bosses. But most impressive of all is the overall design. Every single platform is spaced perfectly with a purpose. Enemies are usually placed in logical places, and the game manages to provide both decent combat as well as mild puzzle elements to elevate the adventure past most third-party platformers of the day. Chuck Rock 2 Son of Chuck is a great game, and I highly recommend it.